Hello, and welcome back to the Collector's Corner, the podcast that demystifies art collecting with me, Antonia Piersanti. Today, I'm back in Berlin to speak with Manuel Koch, financial journalist, entrepreneur, salon host, and one of the most visible collectors in Germany's ultra-contemporary art scene. He only started collecting about 5 years ago, but in that short time, he's become a real fixture. Manuel is always busy. Alongside his work as a journalist, his free time is entirely dedicated to arts. And he brings a very journalistic lens to that too, using his highly active Instagram account to give visibility to artists, galleries, and museum shows he believes deserve attention. That visibility has also brought criticism, in particular around the name of his account, literally art investment. In our conversation, you'll hear what he actually means by that and why it's more nuanced than it sounds. He did enter the art world through the market, partly because of his background, but what's interesting is really how far he's moved beyond that. Art has genuinely changed his life, and more than anything, he wants others to experience that shift too. I'll stop here and let you enjoy our conversation. Hello, Manuel.
Hello, Antonio. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Finally made it happen in your beautiful flat here in the heart of Berlin. I mean, I'm very impressed with the flat itself, but you just showed me the before and after. You've been here 5 years.
I'm in this apartment for 5 years, and in the beginning, I was not collecting art, so the walls were completely empty. It was a completely different feeling in this apartment. And I think in these 5 years, so much happened in my life, and also art came into my life, and I'm so happy with the art around me.
Wonderful. Because I mean, you're based here in Berlin. You're a financial journalist, market commentator. You've presented from the biggest stock exchanges, New York, London, Frankfurt, and now you run your own media platform Inside Wirtschaft. So this is your full-time job. But 4 years ago, you started collecting, as you said. I believe you have a collection of around 100 works, and primarily by young and emerging artists. Is that right?
Yeah. Or it's, I think, already 120 something.
Oh, wow.
It's growing.
Growing fast, indeed. You follow a two-pronged approach collecting strategy, right? So we'll get into that a little bit later. You're really driven by emotional conviction, right? Even though you also have a clearly articulated investment framework. So, I'm excited to hear a bit more about that because it's not something that people are normally very open about. You also host a salon called Salon Schinkelplatz here in your home. I think for a collector, quite unusually, and even more so in Europe, you're very public, right? You're very open about how you collect. You open up your collection to the public. You also talk about how you think about pricing. So I find that puts you in a rare position as a collector, but also as someone who wants to help others get into collecting and maybe also shape how they think about collecting. But I think maybe go back to the beginning a little bit. You don't come from an art world family. So what was the story of the first artwork that you purchased? What was that like? What did it feel like? What did it mean for you in that moment and now?
I don't come from an art family, but I always was interested in art. But maybe like every, let's say, normal person, you're going to a museum 4 times a year. But I really enjoyed that, but I was not so deep into the scene. And then I had a relationship, and my ex, he studied art, and all of a sudden so many doors and a completely new chapter opened. The relationship ended, but the love for art stayed, and it's so wonderful. I'm so thankful for this relationship because it opened a completely new chapter in my life, and it's probably the best thing ever happened to me. But yeah, then I started through my ex to go to more galleries, to see more shows. I met the first artists, and I always was interested in one artist because I live in the heart of Berlin. It's the Schinkelplatz here. There's the Humboldt Forum, Berliner Stadtschloss here. So it's a very important place for the Berlin history. And one artist, he painted this history and also the construction work going on here for over 10 years. It's Christopher Lehmfuhl.
Mm.
And Christopher, made a watercolor, and it's my view. And I thought, okay, I have to buy this. So this was the very first work I bought like 5 years ago, which is art for me and not decoration. I bought things for the apartment earlier,
that one.
like the moon that lightens up, which is nice at night and gives a nice feeling here, and other things. But like the real artwork was this watercolor. It's right behind me there. It shows the Berlin castle, the palace, and then everything else started.
What exactly like opened up in you or unlocked in you when you started, being introduced to this world?
So my ex was more the emotional part. And then the other side was, let's say, the business part. Because I'm a financial journalist, I also talk about investments. And I also talk not only about stock markets, it's also about maybe cars, watches, and then also art. And this was the other way to get closer to this topic. And I had interviews with authors and experts, and I thought, oh, it's interesting. So I started to see art also from this point of view. And I read a lot of books because I had no idea how the art market works. And I was surprised. And when I read the books and then saw everything like in real life, it was exactly like the books described it.
What sort of books?
For example, Kunst kaufen by Ruth Polleit was the first one I read, then Magnus Resch, and then Dirk Boll, and so many other books. So I enjoyed seeing the art scene and then seeing how everything was like not really open and transparent, and a lot of things maybe are behind doors and some things are very exclusive. And it was all like the books described it.
Interesting. In terms of your portfolio at that time, your investment portfolio, did you already have some rarer alternative assets? So you mentioned wine or cars or that sort of stuff. Did you already consider that, or was art the first one?
I was very deep into like stock markets. So this was my main topic. Also maybe things like Bitcoin, gold, that are the topics in these days. But actually art was the first investment in this way that it, you can really touch it and have it in your apartment maybe and see it every day.
Maybe you can describe your strategy a little bit more, or your approach to collecting.
So when I started also to talk about art and art investments and published these things on my Instagram, for example, my name is Kunstinvestments, so art investments. But I just chose this name because I come from this financial world, and then I started in the art world. I got a lot of criticism for this name, and a lot of also galleries, they would never like repost anything I would post because they don't want their young artists to be in this field that it's an investment or like that I'm a flipper or something. I'm not an art flipper. I didn't sell anything I bought so far because it's more for me still the love, even though if I spend a certain amount of money, let's say maybe over 10,000 euros, I would like to have a stable price. There are a lot of artworks maybe I bought for 1,000 or 2,000 euros, and I think it's just for fun. If it's worth nothing tomorrow, it's still worth a lot for me because I like the artwork. But when I spend more money, 10,000, maybe 20,000, then I hope that the prices are hopefully going up and not going down.
Okay. So that's a little bit the threshold for you from like 10K up. If you don't think that it could appreciate, would you consider not buying a work even if you like it?
So the most important thing is always that I like the work. I would never buy anything I don't like just because it could be a good investment. It has to talk to me and has to fit in my whole collection. And I see so much. I see, I don't know, hundreds of shows and thousands of artworks every year at all universities, at fairs, in galleries. And I don't know how the percentage is, but it's definitely less than 1% I buy, even though I like a lot, but it's not a match for my own collection. I follow artists at least, I would say, like 6 months, maybe a year before I buy something. It's never that I see something at an art fair and I buy it immediately. I'm also not, I don't have this FOMO, fear of missing out. It's coming from the stock market, I don't have this feeling there. If you didn't buy Bitcoin 10 years ago, don't think about it. Buy it now or don't buy anything. And it's the same with the artwork. I see something I like and it hardly happens that I say, I really have to buy this right now. So usually I do my research, I follow artists for a longer time. And if I think it's the right time and maybe the development is good, because a lot of them are pretty young, maybe still in art school, then I consider buying or not.
Okay.
And then I also think about the price. Is it okay? Is it a good price, or is it maybe way too high for the step in the career at the moment?
Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask you about. But first, you do talk a lot about the effort, time you put into research and just sort of waiting a little bit to see how the artists develop, because you tend to focus on these younger early career artists. So once you decide, let's say you have your eye on an artist and you think, well, maybe this is someone who could find their place in my collection. At what point do you decide, okay, now is the time to buy? Like, what are the sort of non-negotiables that need to be in place for you to feel confident, okay, now I'm going to buy it?
So the most important thing is always the artwork itself, but it's the whole package. So the young artists, I know all of them, and I see how they work, maybe how they think about their career. And when I think it could be a match, a long-term match, then I think, how far are they in their development? Did they already find their own language? Is it a unique language, which is the most important thing for me? I don't want anyone that is the second Andy Warhol or 10th Andy Warhol. So I always look for the unique work. And then when it all comes together, then I think, okay, now it's the right time to start supporting the artist.
Do you, because I see here you have some artists, you have a few pieces of them, others you just have one. Do you like collecting more in depth as well? So more of one artist throughout their career? I mean, it's only been 4 years, right? But is this something you think about?
Sure. So one of the artists I found at university is, for example, Kyriakos Tompoulidis, who's now represented by Gallery Udine and in Los Angeles by Feel Matter, two very nice galleries. And, I saw him at a Rundgang, and I saw at this day over 500 students and only one I reminded and I had in my head. And I did my research and followed him for a while. And then I went to his studio in school. And I thought, yeah, I love this work. And I follow him now for 4 years. And I bought just recently the 4th work. But of course, in the career, the works are getting more expensive. Mm-hmm. So I have to think, I can only afford now the smaller ones, the bigger ones, over my limit that I spend for one art piece. So let's say I haven't spent more than 25,000 for one art piece.
That's your limit?
I would say so. I mean, it's, I try to have a budget every year, and I can never stick to it. So last year I spent over 60,000, and I thought I could spend maybe 30,000 for last year, and then it was double of what I thought. But in this case, it's not that my budget is unlimited, and I don't want to take all the money from savings or something. I sold already a bit Bitcoin, but I tried to spend the money I earn and invest it in stock markets and also invested then in art. And also the last 2 years, I myself felt a recession with my company. So you have to think about where to put the money and you have to think smart. And in better times, I would have spent more money for art, but it's not always possible.
Yeah, of course. So you mentioned end of year shows, which you really like to go to, and you found a lot of artists there. When you go to these and you look at, like you said, there's multiple students, what tells you this is someone I want to follow. This is someone I need to keep an eye on.
It's my feeling in the first 2 seconds.
So pure gut.
Totally. With these young artists, it's these like feeling in the beginning. But then like I said, I have to do this research, see more works, maybe speak to the artist, and then this whole package has to be good that I decide to buy something.
So you do meet the artists? You try to build a relationship with the artists you collect?
So, of course, I'm in touch with a lot of artists and galleries, and you cannot be friends with everyone and meet them, I don't know, twice a month. But I think even through Instagram, you can build a connection. And then in important moments, I try to support, So there are the few artists that I'm very positive for and that I see a future. I try to talk and write regularly and see what they are up to and how they are and which shows are coming up. But this is just like maybe 5 to 10 artists.
The artists that you collect, are they primarily based in Berlin then?
I would say in Germany, a lot of them in Berlin, but some are so internationally, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So Navot Miller, he lived a long time in Berlin. Anis Reimann is in Düsseldorf. Brandon Lipschick just moved from Berlin to Paris.
Yeah. So they all have a connection to Berlin, or a lot of them do.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. And their galleries are often based in Berlin.
You're from Berlin.
Yes.
You grew up here, you're born here. What's your relationship to the city in respect to arts?
I mean, when I was super little, the wall came down and the place, the city changed so much. And it was like a little adventure to go to the other part of the city. So I grew up in West Berlin, and then we, of course, went to East Berlin and saw what's going on there. And it smelled differently and it looked different and the buildings looked old. So yeah, I loved this vibe and atmosphere, and I spent a lot of time in East Berlin then. I think there were so many people from the art world, not only like painting, but like dancing and club scene. And Berlin was so big because it was also so much more affordable 20 years ago.
Mm.
For my first apartment here, I paid 400 euros all included in Berlin Mitte, and now it's like 3 times of the price. So the times were also for people from the art world who maybe didn't make so much money were really good back then.
Yeah, that's true. That's changing for sure. And I wanted to talk about the research that you do on the artists that catch your eye. What does that look like?
Yeah, so also because I didn't study art and I'm not an art historian, I read also a lot of art books. So I started with that, then the art market books, and then I'm listening to a lot of podcasts. So this is what I do every week to like entertain myself, but also inform myself and educate myself. And then you have Instagram, and I use it a lot, and I see interesting artists and then I follow them. And sometimes, I didn't know them. I just bought a watercolor work from a young artist who died when he was 25 last year, or a year ago, 2024. And I followed him for quite a while, and I liked his work. I've never met him. He lived in United Kingdom, and it was very sad when such a young person died. But I thought, like, to remember him, I want a piece of his work. And now I got a small watercolor and I really like it. And I think you see in this work, it's a fire, his problems in life, and maybe, his mental health issues. So it was really important for me to buy this, for example, even though I didn't know him, unfortunately, and I cannot meet him. But these kind of things are talking to me, so it has to be like maybe a story behind it and touching me.
What's his name?
Luke Silva.
Luke Silva. That's very sad. So we talked about your focus on younger artists, emerging artists, but you also, I see here, you have also more established names. And you do have a little bit more of a investment strategy behind those. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, like we talked about the budget, I I only have like an amount of money every year I can spend on art. So either I buy very young artists, which are much more affordable, or I spend maybe a bit more money on artists that are more established. And in this case, I would expect that it's more an investment than the others, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The young artists are, for me, in the business world, you would maybe say it's a startup. Maybe 1 of 10 will have their business model succeed and will be there in 5 years. Well, I would say in the art world, it's probably less than 1 of 10. So this is one part, and the other part are these artists that are represented by big galleries. And I always go to these kind of shows. I love Grace Weaver, for example. I love Andre Butzer, Denny Sewell, Anis Reimann. I love Anis Reimann so much. She's now 60, I think. She finished her art studies when she was 55, Black woman from Düsseldorf. And she's so successful now, and it's so nice to see that. And I love her work so much.
Awesome. 55. Wow. Like you said, it's a young person's game, but actually, no, you can still have a breakthrough in your 50s. That's amazing.
And I think it's not normal in our world because everyone on Instagram has to look so young and fresh and, better, bigger, nicer. And to get to this point, I think it's just lovely and it's so well deserved because the art is so fantastic.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's also the algorithm, pushing certain things more than others. It can sometimes just give you like a partial picture of what's actually out there, for sure. And some artists, they're not even that active, right, on social media. So it's also harder to find them, even though the work can be excellent.
I understand when super young artists say they just started and they haven't found their own voice and language yet, and they don't want to show every step. I understand that. But apart from that, I would say you have to be active on social media. If you're not posting or if you're not existing on Instagram, it's so hard in the art world. Who should find you? It's only just once a year. When the doors are open at the university, it's not enough, I think.
How do you, so for these investment works, these investment pieces, you mentioned earlier you've never sold a work. I don't know if you intend to. It doesn't sound like it, at least for now. Is this just something that you're going to hold for a really long time and see how it goes, or you have rough idea of when you might want to sell, or how do you think about that?
So I always say all these works are my babies, and you are not selling your babies.
Sell your babies,
right?
No.
And it's the way that your babies are expensive, and you have to like grow them and be good to them. So yeah, I think the biggest return for me is the happiness. And when I come into my big living room every morning, I just love to walk in and I feel good. So I think this is the most important. So of course the taste is changing. Also it's a question of where to storage. I'm now at the point I really have to think what to do. So far I could hang everything and I have a basement and could put some works there. But if I collect in the same speed the next 5 years again, I really have a big problem. And at the moment, I'm not buying really big works because I don't know where to hang them. I think about a rotation. So in the next month, I will rotate a little bit in my main room, but it's not easy because I like the works and I want to see them. And who is now going to the basement? It's not fair, especially for the young artists. I want to show them because I have so many people here every year. I have my regular events every 2 months, and then I have the open doors for Gallery Weekend and Art Week, and hundreds of people are coming every year. And I want to show these young artists.
So what are you going to do?
So next door was an apartment available, but to have like 2 apartments, I thought about, do I have a business model? At the moment, I didn't have a business model. But maybe when another apartment gets available, will think about it again.
So have an apartment dedicated just to showing your collection.
And maybe an apartment that is only for like the events and for the art. And maybe then I would have my own apartment more to myself. But I mean, I don't mind that hundreds of people are walking through my living room every year. I love it, and I love the connection and the lovely conversations here to connect other people together. It's so good, but maybe in a long term, I would separate that a bit more.
Yeah. This is, I'm sure, something you think about as your collection grows as well. And for someone who started so relatively recently, you are already opening it up. You already want to, like you said, share and show these artists that you're supporting. And I actually have a question around that visibility piece, the very open approach that you take. What sort of responsibility comes with that visibility? So, collectors tend to be very private, but they're also very influential. What sort of responsibility do you think comes with being more visible, more open, and also talking about things like investment in arts?
Yeah, so I think some people find it a bit weird that I'm always like posting things and talking about markets. For me, I see it as my job because I feel that even though I'm the collector in this part, I'm still the journalist talking about things and maybe talking about markets. It could be in a positive way and in a negative way sometimes. Usually I post like art I see artists I like, but I know that it has a kind of an impact. And of course, I just show what I like, but not what I would always buy myself. So because I see so many shows, I think it's nice for people that I live somewhere else and not in Berlin. And I got so many messages telling me, thank you for sharing all these different views from Frankfurt, from London, from New York, from Berlin, where I'm going to. So I do that, and so surprised how many people I reach.
Didn't realize you made that distinction. So it's almost like your Instagram or what you project publicly, that's almost like a reporting that you do.
For me, it's a reporting.
Yeah.
When I go to a show, I report about
But
it.
it doesn't mean that this is going to be a piece that you buy or an artist that you're going to collect. So that you do make the distinction between what you want to report on and what you privately will acquire.
Yeah, these are 2 different things.
Yeah.
So I report about the gallery shows I saw or museum shows I saw, but it doesn't mean that I'm personally interested.
Okay.
And I see so much. Most of it I really post. Sometimes, it's hard to say that, but sometimes I really don't like the art when I go to like a young artist and I think it's not far enough at the moment, good enough, then I'm not posting it. But usually I try to support someone and to post it in my little world.
Yeah, but I know it reminds me now when you post these, you don't necessarily give an opinion, right? It's very, like you said, very journalistic in a way.
And when you read sometimes just like little adjectives, wonderful show or wonderful art piece, then I don't do that often, but this means I really like it.
Okay.
And then also I post the works I buy, but not every work I bought is on there because sometimes I think the artist is maybe too young. For example, Max Grote.
Yeah.
I know him now for 4 years. He just opened his first institutional art show in Potsdam. And I love it so much to see how he grew in the last years. But, I saw him the very first time in a dirty back room in the school in Weißensee. And he was painting there. It was not as good as he is now, but I saw some potential and I liked the person. And I started to follow him. And 2 years later, I bought the first painting. And 3 years later, I really bought a big, wonderful piece.
Yeah.
And I think he's going a really good path. But you never know if he is marrying tomorrow, moving to New Zealand and likes to become a chicken farmer. Then, he will stop his art career. I don't think so. I think he has so much potential. But he's, for example, one example where I would not have posted anything in the beginning.
Okay. Why not?
Because I think I'm doing him a favor when it's too early.
So it's when back to what you were saying at the beginning, is when you feel like they're still working on finding their unique visual language style, you want to give them that space. And
I think so, because this is, again, my responsibility as a journalist. And also when I'm in the finance world, I know so many details sometimes, but I cannot talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like you talk with the CEO, but he says you cannot talk about it in public. Same with like politicians, right? It's like talks in the back, but you are not allowed even to talk about it publicly. And I have the same feeling sometimes with artists.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. I thought visibility is good no matter at what point, but that's a really good point. Like, and you touch again on this responsibility as a journalist, but maybe also as a collector.
I mean, so many artists write me every week, and they want to get in touch and maybe offer me sometimes they're sending me their PDFs and everything. But it's not, sometimes it's nice to meet the people, of course, but I have to discover the artists. It's my fun. And also sometimes artists bring art pieces and give them to me because they want that I show them in my apartment. It's lovely, it's very nice, but it's not part of my collection. This is my decision, and I follow these artists for such a long time. It's my own taste.
Yeah. But how would you describe your taste, actually?
So after 4 years, I would say most of the artworks are paintings. They're figurative. This is a big, important part because I think I need this connection to a figure and to see something in it. And I didn't mean to have this path, but a lot of artists are also queer. It just happened. Some are publicly open, some not. I would say I don't buy queer art. This is different for me, but I like queer artists.
What's the distinction that you make? What do you mean by queer art?
So queer art for me, or maybe if you would talk about it, would be like a naked man.
Right.
And a queer artist can paint a landscape,
Yeah. That makes sense. You talked about the decision that you want to make when you collect someone, and the hunt a little bit, the search for something that will speak to you. Do you feel that in your collection you try to capture today's discourse, the cultural discourse, the zeitgeist a little bit? Is that something you think about when you collect?
Definitely. Yeah, it's a part. There was an article, I think last year, about queer intimacy. And I really enjoyed that because when I look around here, I have some of these artists mentioned in the article. So yeah, it's about the zeitgeist, maybe a feeling you have deep inside you, also maybe as a queer person, a deep feeling that something is a little bit wrong in our society and where are we going to. And I think I see that in the works I buy.
Especially when you collect so much so quickly, and in times like, since COVID, I mean, so much has happened. It can be challenging to find the time to take a moment and reflect on how you approach your collection. So do you plan on maybe slowing down at some point and take a bit of a break?
So my taste definitely changed the last years, and maybe a few works I bought in the beginning I wouldn't buy today. But I think it's the development you have to go through as a collector as well. And I think about not to buy so many smaller and maybe less expensive pieces, maybe less, but each of them are maybe a bit more expensive also.
Okay.
So maybe also still supporting the young artists in university. but also buying maybe a bit more the established artist. So I started with editions, and sometimes I still buy them, especially from artists that are so expensive already that I don't have the 100,000 for one painting. But I always try to buy a unique piece, even if it's a small one.
And why do you want to take that direction? Slowing down, less pieces, more expensive, more established artists?
It has also to do with the space I have in my apartment. Honestly. So I would love to buy some bigger pieces, and then I have to find the rotation and the space for them.
Once you have this second apartment. Yeah, that's interesting that you already think about also the broader collection, how you want to make it evolve. But because you took that approach of opening it up from the beginning, I think it's a natural next step. Yeah, I hope you find you find more space. I have a couple of more practical questions. Where do you buy most frequently? Is it from galleries? So once an artist has a gallery, you'd buy from them, or you buy even earlier from the studio?
I only buy through the artist when he's a student and pretty young, right? All other, I think, 90% I buy at galleries, and I have the connection and the relationship to a gallerist. And it's also important for me because usually they found the artist and they developed something together for years and years. So it's still like the system, but I support the system.
And what about events in the, art calendar? Which ones do you choose to attend?
So I go to fairs, but they're not the most important part. I love Art Cologne in Germany. I didn't go to many other art fairs in Germany, sometimes in Berlin, but we don't have so many positions. But it's not so interesting. I never found a new artist there that I was interested in. Art Cologne I like. Art Basel Basel, Art Basel Paris I love. Gallery Weekend and Art Week, of course, in Berlin are always in my calendar, and I open my apartment at these weeks.
In terms of one key piece of advice that you would give someone who wants to start building a meaningful collection, what would that be?
Buy what you like, and buy maybe a younger artist, because the dead artists, they don't need your money. So I really like to see also that artists can develop. I had one example, a young artist in university, and he told me, oh, now when I bought something and now I can eat something this week and not only like noodles with ketchup. So you immediately see that it has a little impact. And if you want art as an investment, it's a complete different chapter.
Yeah, for sure. What do you know today that you feel like you would have liked to know at the beginning of this collecting journey?
Yeah, so maybe how everything is connected, and the museums and the galleries know the museum director, and then the gallery artist is showing at the museum, and maybe a little bit more of these kind of gossip backstories, I would say so, just for fun. But except from that, from like the art market, I already read so much about it in the beginning before I started.
So what does that mean for someone who's starting then? What you were saying about the ecosystem?
For me, it's the whole thing is the fun, right? To go out, to see the people, to talk. Sometimes, of course, it's a bit not artificial. Oberflächlich, superficial, right? So of course, sometimes it's superficial. It's like everywhere. When I meet people in the financial world, it's sometimes also superficial, but it's fine. But I met so many people where I thought it's such a deep connection, and sometimes you know them for a long time through Instagram, and then you meet, and it's such a nice connection all of a sudden, like you're surprised. And this is maybe the most lovely thing that happened to me, to meet like-minded people from so many different backgrounds, and it's lovely. And this is, for me, I think, the most important.
Yeah.
And then the happiness the art brings.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's always the most exciting when You enter a completely new world, all the people you meet and the perspectives it opens up. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it too. I'm not nearly as active as you've been. So, in terms of the market, the art market itself, do you have any thoughts on what the trends might be for this year?
When I talk to galleries, I have the feeling that a lot of galleries and artists offering smaller works.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is maybe a little trend. Artists that always painted huge formats, now they are also painting a few smaller ones, that it's more affordable and easier to sell. Other than that, I really hope that the art world could open up a bit more for young collectors. I think it's still sometimes so exclusive, and when you're a young person, the doors are closed when you're on the collector's side, I think. Of course, they're very open when you are maybe an artist and you have this whole community, which is lovely. But yeah, this feeling that it's super exclusive, I don't like that so much.
Yeah.
And, for my events, everyone can come, for example. And I love this, that people can mingle here, and one is an artist, one is a collector. So yeah, maybe the art world should open up a bit more.
When you open up your home for people to see your collection, is it mainly people that are already in the art world, or do you see a lot of people who are just, curious and maybe starting out?
It's so mixed. I realize there are some young people in the corner and they are looking around, and maybe later, because they post something on Instagram, I see that probably they don't have so much to do with art, and they are coming because they're interested in this space here. A lot of people want to see the view because it's nice when you look outside, and then combined with the art and the people here. So all the people that are coming from my side, I think most of them are now from the art world, except some friends that are coming to see me. And then there are so many people I don't know anymore.
Yeah, that's nice though. Then you must make you feel good that it's reaching many people.
I'm over 10 years on camera in the financial world, but in the Berlin art world, people are much more actively coming to me.
Yeah.
And people I have never met, and that are all of a sudden talking to me at an exhibition, and it's lovely to meet everyone.
You talk about how happy it makes you to live with your work, and this piece that you lent to the Potsdam Museum is you miss it already. What does living with these works, what does it teach you about yourself, or what has it taught you about yourself?
I think it changed my life. So many doors opened all of a sudden. And when I walk in the morning, I talk to some of the art pieces. I have one in my bedroom, and it's a figure, and sometimes I say good morning. It has a name, so I say the name. And yeah, I live here by myself, so they are my family in a way. It changed my life to the better.
That's what art does, right? It does change people's lives. Awesome. A few final questions.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the last artwork you purchased?
So this year I started with a canvas by Norbert Bisky. I already we started the process last year, but I bought it this year. So already a big part of my budget is going to this one piece.
For 2026?
Yes. Like I said, when I spend more than 20,000, I have to be 100% sure that it's the right work. And I always wanted a small canvas by Norbert Bisky. And I saw so many in the last year. The gallery Esther Schipper was so nice, and they always offered me something. But now we came to the point that it was the right piece. So I'm very happy. It's still in an exhibition.
Yeah.
So it will come after March.
Did you say it's quite big?
It's a small one.
A small?
50 by 40 or something like that.
Okay, so you still have some space for it.
Yes, but when this arrives, I will do some rotation, because I want a whole little corner with Norbert Bisky pieces.
Okay, so you have others?
I have 3 editions. 2 are behind you.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. How would you describe your collection in one word?
figurative, different styles, different colors. So but a lot of figurative works.
And who's the one artist you're excited about, but you haven't bought them yet? Like, I'm sure there's many.
There are a lot, but I would say Luis Fratino, a queer artist I saw at the Venice Biennale 2 years ago. For the very first time, like 20, 30 pieces in one room. And I was like overwhelmed. I loved it so much. And at this moment, I knew I really would love to have something. And I always look for drawings. There are sometimes some in auctions. Some art dealers are offering drawings. They are also about 20K, just a small drawing. But this is like the range I still could afford. But of course, I would love to have like a painting here. So Luis Fratino would be on top of my list.
How do you keep track of all the artists that you follow?
It's usually Instagram. I just see so much, and then someone is posting like a new show somewhere else, and then I realize, oh, there is a new show in London, and I tried to see it. So this is usually the way it works. And I have some art magazines, so I read these and I see the calendars, what's coming up, and then I do my own notes and I try to squeeze it in my own calendar.
And who's one collector you look up to?
So I never in my life had like role models, but maybe in the art world, it's Timo Mittinen, a Finnish collector. He lives in Berlin too. I went with him and a whole group of Berlin people to Helsinki for an opening in November. And also Timo is probably the reason why I thought, I could open my apartment and make art, visible to other people, because he was like the first person where I went to who opened also his like private apartment, has art everywhere. And I enjoyed that so much. So Timo Mittinen is probably the one I would look up to. There are so many other, let's say, collectors, maybe above 80, and they reached so much as a collector and had a very good taste. And I love to read their stories, but I think today it's different.
Yeah.
And I love talking to them, but I think the collector side is changing at the moment.
How so?
A new generation is coming. And I think it's all maybe a little bit more public, even though still a lot of art collectors are very private and not so talking about it and not opening the doors. But it's opening up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's easier to find art as well, right? Like obviously Instagram, and it does feel probably more open than, I don't know, 30 years ago, even 20. But there is more art also out there for sure. And the whole financial bubble around it has probably also changed the game compared to someone who was collecting, like you said, 30, 40 years ago.
I think it's, even though we are still talking about galleries that are not so transparent, I think it's getting more transparent. On the other hand, 30 years ago, maybe the artwork was also compared to the time cheaper than today.
Yeah.
So it's this kind of investing thing and less works on the market, that everything got more expensive.
So we'll see where it goes from here. Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you, Antonia.
I really enjoyed this.
Me too.
That's it for today's episode of The Collector's Corner. If you enjoyed it, do follow the show and leave a short rating or review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps more people find these conversations. And if you've got thoughts, feedback, or someone you think I should talk to next, I'd love to hear from you. Just drop me a message on Instagram or through the website, thecollectorscornerpodcast.com. Thank you for listening and for being part of this growing community. Until next time.